Welcome to the weekly Wisdom for Parents lesson. My name is Melanie Soloway,
I'm Deanna Gailey Maud.
and today we are going to talk about how to talk to our kids about the birds and the bees.
I know that as parents, these conversations do not come natural or easy for most of us. And oftentimes the things we want to tell our kids is don't have sex. And we already learned that that doesn't work, right? That it's still going to happen. And what we're here to tell you, the earlier you start, the better.
Well, on that topic, I just want to talk quickly, Deanna, about what you're talking about and why it's not easy for most of us to talk about sex. And it's not easy for most of us to talk about sex because when we were kids, nobody spoke to us about sex. So it wasn't really modeled for us. And so it's something that just feels like a completely foreign language for us. And, because of that, a lot of us are uncomfortable. And then we think if we just avoid talking about it, like somehow it's going to, the kids just like, I mean, what happened when we didn't talk about it with our parents is we know that, whether it was us or our friends, like there was a lot of experimentation, there was a lot of misinformation, a lot that kids didn't know. And it led to some dangerous situations, right? And so that's why it's really important that we get comfortable talking to our kids about sex. And we do want to start early. And when my kids were younger, I learned that from experts in the field that the best time to start talking to them was at around age 5 or 6 years old. And the way to do that is really to start with, or the way I did at least, was to start with reading age appropriate books to them on the topic, children's books. And so that what it does is it sets up our relationship with them, that we become a safe place to go. And it's even more important now in the world that we're in, because at least when I was growing up, there wasn't the internet. And now there is. And that adds another whole layer. So those are my few thoughts on the subject just to start. Deanna, what do you think?
Well, I'm reading this really amazing book. It's called Yes, Your Kid, and it's by Debbie Herbenek, PhD, and it's really comprehensive on this topic, mostly for our tweens and teens sex
Mm.
talk. But it goes into what is the most important aspect to this talk with your children. And that is to begin early, like you said, Melanie, and to start instilling in your children that you are an askable parent. Like the key here is to be an askable parent. Like, yes, we may not want to hear some of these questions or feel uncomfortable even answering them. But the thing about being an askable parent is that your child can come to you and ask you. And you can even say, I don't know that answer right now. Let me research it and find out for you. Or let's get curious about this and see if we can discover this together. And I think it's a skill that you as a parent need to work on in your levels of communication with your child, like that they feel safe to come to you with anything. And that is what will sometimes save your child's life, you know, because like you said, they are so exposed to everything. And if we think, oh, not our kid, but these folks say, yes, your kid, and they're right. These children, because of the internet and and all that they get exposed to at school, even if you put restrictions on your home and internet, that doesn't mean your neighbor, their friend, the school, the coffee shop has it on theirs. And they have these portable computer devices that they carry around. So they literally are exposed to everything so much sooner than you ever think. So I guess the question is, how do you become an askable parent, right? What's the keys to that? And I, think you have to encourage your child to be curious and let them know that it's okay to come to you and ask questions and practice being present with them and really listening. And oftentimes when we're listening to our child, instead of trying to think for the answer, clarify the question. Like what I heard you say is you're really curious about how babies are made. Am I with you? You're like, yeah, let's discover that. Let's see if we can figure that out together. And then stick to what they ask. Don't overshare, over volunteer extra information unless they're actually curious and asking about it. Uh, and always respond age appropriately. And you might say, well, how do I know what's age appropriate? And it's going to really require that us as parents get educated at how to communicate these very important uh, messages to our children. That they're going to get it, like you said, from all of their friends at school, a lot of misinformation. And so it's really, I would say the most important key about the sex talk is to be askable.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you set yourself up as a parent as a safe space to come, whether it's about sex or conflict they're having with a friend or an issue that they're having with a sibling, and um, not to be judgmental about whatever that situation is, but really just to be able to be a sounding board for them, to be able to guide and direct them without the judgment, I think is really, really key. And I think sometimes when it comes to sex, at least for me, I can speak for me personally, like it felt scary. It just felt scary. Like I didn't want my kids making choices that were going to, land them in a situation where I was going to become a grandmother when they were teenagers or, um, and so it just really being that open person that they can come to. And like you said, Deanna, really listening to what the child is asking and just answering that question. And I think there were maybe some examples that you had
Yes.
shared with me that you want to just share to conclude this short segment on what we're talking about today.
Love to, and just again, I'm pulling them out of this book. But they're encouraging, responses to kids' questions are, I'm glad you asked that. What have you heard? And so you really want to check in with them. Where are they at? What have they heard? Because your response is very much going to depend on what they already know. And so the next is great question. What are your thoughts? I love that you asked that question. Uh, isn't that interesting to think about? Here's what I've heard. What's a great thing you, no, sorry, what a great thing you're wondering about that. What's your hypothesis? To really just keep checking in with them, and you can always say, well, say more about that, or tell me more about what you've heard already, or people have shared with you about this topic. That way you are askable. They can come to you and ask, and you're going to find out from them, like, where are you at? What do you already know? So you can start sharing age appropriate information with them. So that's what I recommend. I do recommend this book for everybody. I I'm not attached to this book at all. I just love it, and I think it's really good and helpful. So thank you all for coming today.
Yeah, and also the other thing that's really helpful, as we're mentioning, is, of course there are books, but another place for me is to talk to other parents, right? To find out how other parents are handling it, what other parents are saying, what other parents are learning, what other parents are doing. And, whether that's with my friends or in support group or, if I mean, stuff comes up and obviously I talk to my coach or my therapist or my friend or they're places that we can get the help if we're uncomfortable with certain topics, particularly, and on this subject, on the topic of sex, right? So that's what we would encourage. And so for any of you that want to join us, we will be doing our weekly support group for parents next Tuesday, and we hope you'll join us. It'll be in our Facebook Live. Sorry, when I say it'll be in our Facebook group, that the live link will be given for the Zoom link. And I don't have the date for that Tuesday. Let me just do the math in my head if I can quickly. So it would be the 15th,
11.
I believe. No, it would
Yeah.
be the week after. So
Oh,
the
the 18th.
Okay. So then we will hopefully see you then. All right, guys, join us or email us at info@raisingenlightened.children, and we will be there to support you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for bye.